Hey guys, welcome back to our BGP 4.0 hands-on lab. In this lab, we're going to go ahead and explore one quick concept around BGP, which is called classless BGP. And I'm sure most of you really understand what classless really means. So the BGP that we are working with is really a classless protocol. And the version of the BGP that we are running, we can go ahead and verify that with the help of your IP BGP summary. And you can take a look at the version of the BGP that is being used is right now BGP4. So BGP4 is a classless, protocol really. So what that really means when you hear the term classless routing protocol, that simply means that when there is a routing update happens, that routing table will include, the routing update, not the table, routing update will include the IP address and the subnet mask. So you will have both the IP as well as the subnet mask, something like this. And sometimes this combination where you have this IP address and subnet mask is also called as an IP prefix. So you must have heard a lot of people saying, hey, my BGP is advertising that number of IP prefix. So an IP prefix is just simply a combination of an IP address and subnet mask. And BGP, like so far you have been looking at this IP BGP table. So BGP really uses this notation where you have an IP address, then a slash followed by the number of bits. Sometimes you really say that as a subnet mask. So these number of bits really kind of indicates how many number of bits are set to 1 basically, and rest of the bits are really set to 0. So in this particular case, there are 28 bits which are set to 1 and rest of the bits are set to 0 simply. And that's what you can go ahead and take a look. So when you see this combination, this is called really the classless. Now your routing update will include this IP address as well as subnet mask. When you are working with the notion of the classless, if you do not specify your bits simply, then the updates really assumes them to be the classful networks. So like if you are using 10.0.0.0 without any mask, then the system would assume it's a natural or default mask, and that subnet or network 10 belongs to class A. So you would see in the update that being written as 10.0.0.0/8. Similarly, for class B, it would be 16, and for class C, it would be /24. And we just know now the BGP is a classless routing protocol. That means BGP also supports interdomain routing. And you can go ahead and advertise. There are a few things. Now, in this case, if you take a look at on this router R1, we have a loopback interface configured with IP address of 10.0.0.0.1 with 240 as our mask. So this is our mask that is being configured for this particular interface. Now, I want to go ahead and advertise. Now, we want to go ahead and advertise this into BGP. So how would you go ahead and advertise this as a classless network into BGP? Now with the classless, we just said the classless will have a IP followed by the number of bits actually. And if we do not specify this network mask or these number of bits, it would assume them to be the default mask, which is, let's say for class A network, it would be 8, 16, and 24 and so on for B and C. Now, the way if you want to go ahead and now if you take a look at, we do not have this particular being advertised into BGP right now. So now let's go ahead and advertise this as a classless into BGP. And it is pretty simple to do. So now if you go to configure terminal, you go inside your BGP process. Now to advertise any network, we can also go ahead and make use of the network command. So if you take a look at here, it says network. Specify a network to announce via BGP. So if you want to announce a network via BGP, we can go ahead and make use of the network statement. So let's say network followed by the network number. So in this case, it is asking for the network number. So if you see here 10.0.0.0 is really belongs to what network? It really belongs to a network of 10 here. So that's what we're going to go ahead and say here 10.0.0.0. And if you question mark, you can say mask or route map. In this case, we are going to say mask here. And now we need to go ahead and specify the mask. So our mask is 255.255.255.240. So what we went ahead and just did that. We went ahead and advertised as a classless this particular into BGP. And for that, we went ahead and made use of the network command. But there's a few things that you need to pay attention. We went ahead and used this network command with the mask, and we went ahead and specified all these things. This is all great. But, it is going to take a look at if there is a match into the IP routing table or not. If there is no matches found, you will see it might not have advertised, and you might have to sometime create null interfaces. We're going to go ahead and explore some of these things. Now, let's take a look at if this route really got advertised into our BGP table or not. So we can just say simply show IP BGP. And now you can see that now we have a new route that got advertised at 10.0.0/28 with the next hop again 0. And you could see for this route, we already have an origin code of set to I. So that's the way we can go ahead and advertise or announce a network into BGP. We can also go ahead and take a look at a few more details here. So I can say show BGP, and let's say we want to take a look at details. So let's copy this particular network and we can go ahead and find the further details about this one. So it really says, okay, hey, the origin is this particular one, and it is learning from this. The origin is set as an IGP, and the local preference is 100. It is a valid route, and some of the other things. But when we were configuring, you remember we went ahead and specified that mask. If we had not configured that mask, in that case, the system again, assumed that this net belongs to its default class. In that case, it would have assumed it to be like /8 because this is your class A IP address or network from class A really. Now, let's go ahead and if you remember that on this router, we had a couple of the loopbacks that we configured. And all those loopbacks really belongs to class A, like 10 network. And their mask is /28. That means if you go ahead and advertise a /24, that would cover all of these loopbacks that we had configured on this particular router. So now let's go ahead and try to advertise a /24 into our BGP. So we'll just say simply router BGP 1, and we'll again make use of the network command, and we are interested in advertising network 10 with a mask. This time we want to use a mask of /24. So we went ahead and did that. Now, if everything is good, now let's take a look at, do we see a route in our routing table for this particular one? And you can see there's no route in the routing table for this particular one. Because as we said earlier, that, once we used a network command, we are just telling the BGP, hey, for this particular network, we are interested in advertisement. Okay. So, but this is only going to work if there is an exact match in the routing table. If there is no match, it simply will not be advertised. So this route will not be advertised, and that's what we see, because on this router we do not have any explicit match that matches either this network or this particular mask. So how do you go ahead and fix that? Let's say we want to go ahead and advertise this, and that's where we can go ahead and make use of that null route. So we can go ahead and simply create a null route for this particular network. And how would you go ahead and do that? So now let's go ahead and simply configure terminal, and we can go ahead and create a static route for this particular one. So we'll say 10.0.0.0. We need to go ahead and specify the mask. In this case, the mask we are interested is 24. And if you press a question mark here, one of the things that you get to see here is really the null interface. So we'll go ahead and create a null 0 interface. Now at this time, if you go ahead and take a look at your route table, again for this particular, now we have this particular route. So what really happened? So now the router is going to check your routing table for an exact match for that network as well as the mask. Now, earlier we didn't have any such route. Now, with the help of this null route, we went ahead and created this particular route. Now, any traffic which is destined for 10.0.0/24 will be sent to this particular router. And anytime we have an exact match, it will be forwarded. And anytime whenever there is no match, it will simply be silently be dropped. And sometimes this concept really comes handy when you are trying to deal with or trying to stop or trying to prevent any kind of routing loops. So that's where this particular concept of null zero will really come into handy. Now at this stage, we can see that this particular route is being advertised into the BGP routing table. So that's the whole idea for the classless, that in the case of a classless, we just saw that this is the notation that is being utilized. And if you do not specify an explicit mask, by default, it will assume them to be of their respective class. And for any network to be advertised into BGP, it needs to be present into your routing table. And if it is not for certain situations, you can go ahead and create a static route towards your null zero. Anytime whenever you have an explicit match, the traffic will be forwarded. Any traffic which is not being matched will simply or silently will be dropped. And this is also one of the mechanisms that is greatly used in the prevention of loops. So that'll be all for this lab. I'll see you guys in next lab. Thank you.